welcome to another edition of the House Whisperer Show on WWDB Talk 860. I'm Barry Reisman, inviting you to stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your house from the roof to the basement, featuring professional home inspector Jack Milne. And once again, Jack has a very interesting guest. And Jack, I'll let you tell everybody who is on the air with us.
Well, thank you, Barry. It's Sunday. It's April, man. I am glad to see that things are starting to grow a little bit. Hopefully winter is well past us now. And I thought this would be a good time to introduce Ken Neudecker. I've known Ken, I bet you since the mid-'80s, and he has been my go-to guy for when I built my garage or when I put an addition on my home, even when I renovated my office here in Morrisville. Ken was my man of choice. And I figured that now with spring fever hopefully hitting some of us, and we're getting outside our homes and opening our windows again, that our listeners would start to think, well, how do I hire a professional contractor? And Ken, being in the business now for almost 40 years, I thought this was like prime time to bring Ken on the air and to share some pearls of wisdom. So, Ken, before we start, how can people reach out to you?
My website, Jack, is neudeckerconstruction.com.
And how about a good phone number?
215-443-9200 is my office.
Let me ask you, could you spell Neudecker for people who are listening?
Yes, it's Neudecker.
Perfect. Now, before we kick in, I always like to thank my sponsors, because without them I wouldn't be on the air today. So we're going to start with Burrow Exterminating. Once again, if you're starting to see those wings that happen to be by themselves in corners and dark areas of your home, you might have a termite infestation. And they also do radon testing. So reach out to them at 610-586-5640. Buxmont Inspections, again, as our grass is starting to grow, if you all have on-site sewage systems, if the lawn is a little mushy in areas, you better get it checked out. 215-669-4213. Pest Blaster, we had Mike on the air last week talking about mold. So, again, radon mold wood destroying insect inspection, pest removal, just in case. 215-295-5555. BrainFlushGear.com. Yep, I'm starting to put my long-sleeve shirts away. I'm putting on a few of my short-sleeve shirts these days. Try them at email at contact@BrainFlushGear.com. And finally, Tri-County Inspection Company. We serve 15 counties in and around Philadelphia, New Jersey, all the way up to Berks County, Lehigh Valley. So 215-295-2030 is our main number. Lehigh Valley, 610-346-7880. And if you're in South Jersey, 856-853-4224. And before we kick in with Ken, again, I'm going to forego the email box, but I do ask that you go ahead and reach out to me at thehousewhisperershow@gmail.com, because next week I will definitely be digging through that email box and talking about certain things that pertain to the start of warmer weather. And, of course, always reach back to former episodes at thehousewhisperershow.com. So, Ken, let's kick in. I am a homeowner. I finally got outside, and I'm thinking about doing a deck. I've talked to my neighbors, and they say it's a good idea, but you want to hire a professional contractor. How does a homeowner go about doing that?
Well, when you're looking for a professional contractor, you got to make sure that they're registered with the state to start with. So that would mean they would have workman's comp or insurance if they just were a one-man band. But for the most part, you want to make sure your contractor is seasoned, has a lot of experience, and is registered with the state. That'll show you that he's got some proof of license to start.
I understand this license is fairly new, maybe within the past few years?
Yeah, about 3 years or so, Jack.
Yeah, and folks, with some really small projects, I mean, if you're hiring a plumber to, replace a kitchen faucet, or you want a laundry sink installed, the license for that is not as critical as a major project. And so, if you have a plumber come in or an electrician who's going to spend a couple hours, it's one thing. But if you're going to hire Neudecker Construction or one of the other larger general contracting companies out there, and you're thinking of that addition, or you want to remodel your kitchen, well, that's a whole different, as I call it, breed of animal. And Ken, I think one of the things we have to emphasize is that a lot of times plans today won't get I'm saying plans as to mental plans, sit-down plans, but from the start of conception to the completed job can absolutely take some time.
Oh, yeah. For kitchens, bathrooms, it takes a little time. If you're going to put granite in there, from the time the cabinets are set, you're going to at least have a week before when the granite comes out and they shoot it with a camera to the time it gets installed. So, and a lot of townships now require blueprints. So that means that you're going to sit down with Ken and just say, listen, I want to do this family room extension. If we're going to make this 18 by 24 foot room, the first thing we're going to have to do is get an architect to come in. Yes, and sometimes you're definitely going to need one, Jack. For additions, because you have impervious surface ratios nowadays that you didn't used to have, which means you can only build on so much of your ground. And they count the driveway, your house, your sheds, anything with a roof on it as far as impervious surface. And they're different for each area that you live in. You could live on this side of the town, it'd be this much, and on the other side of the town, it's a lot less as far as what area they let you build on for those additions, and mother-in-law suites and things like that.
I know when we did our garage, Ken, my impervious surface ratio is 18%. And they didn't want to hear 18. They'll take 17.9, but they won't take 18. And even decks have a certain amount of impervious surface because they figure that at least a third of the water will go through. Two-thirds will be absorbed by the wood itself. So that's a very good point, Ken. So these are things where, again, the contractor's going to guide you and say, listen, the 18 by 24 may not fit, but how about if we do a 16 by 20? So walk us through, Ken. You do the sit down. You kind of probably lay out some rough ideas. Windows, floor finishes, ceiling finishes, siding finishes.
You're usually looking for some of that from the customer as far as what they like. And you can sometimes tell by their houses, but sometimes they can show you a picture out of a magazine, which really helps the contractor sometimes to see what they're aiming for. Not that you're going to do exactly that, but it gives you an idea of what they're thinking.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's nothing better than a visual.
Right, exactly. And that's why you do drawing sometimes, because you will end up with the visual with the drawing, so you can see how your house meets your addition and how it looks from different sides of it, too.
Now, here's a good question. What's the difference between a contractor and a general contractor?
A contractor basically does a trade, maybe two trades. A general contractor handles all the trades. It's like a general in the service. He handles different facets, whether it's plumbing, electrical, and some of those he might do in-house, but some of those he might sub out. But he handles more than one trade. I would say at least 4 trades.
And see, that's good to know, too, because then it's not up to the homeowner to try to realign all these different individuals, because you can't build something backwards. So in other words, you've got to dig the footings, you have to pour the concrete, you have to put up the studs, and there is a natural progression to construction. Right. And so after your studs, Kenny, then you have your electrician, then your plumber, and then you've got to bring in the township for inspection.
Yep. I mean, we're just starting one as of yesterday, and it was a mother-in-law suite. And so we ended up hitting a large bunch of concrete that was in the ground that nobody could foresee. There was a garage there before, maybe 50, 75 years. But, I mean, you start running into things like that, and you got to say, well, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to handle the situation? And the building inspector comes out, and he's worried about blankets because of the cold, because concrete will freeze if it's not blanketed. But, I mean, you work your way through those things, and if you need to, you call the architect in who you used and say, well, look, this is what we ran into. And because townships nowadays, they don't want to be responsible for anything. They want the contractor to be responsible. So they would want like a letter from your architect saying it's okay if you attach to this existing footing, but this is the way I want it attached to like your architect. So, there's a natural progression.
Before we move on, why don't we take a quick station break?
Perfect time.
And when we come back, we're going to spend a little bit more time with Ken and, again, how to hire a professional contractor.
Perfect timing. You're right on there. You're listening to the House Whisperer Show, and we have Jack Milne, as always. And Jack's special guest today is Ken Neudecker of Neudecker Construction. And we will take a quick break, and we'll come back for more right after this.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperer Show.
As the summer months quickly arrive and the temperatures gradually rise, so do the odds of all those filthy and unwanted critters invading your home like rodents, roaches, termites, and flies. Oh my! This summer, if you want to feel safe and secure from a possible creeping, crawling disaster, do yourself a favor and call the exterminating experts at Pest Blaster for all your pest control needs, including tests for radon and mold. Please visit pestblaster.com and you'll be sold. 215-295-5555.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to...
And we are back with the House Whisperer Show, and Jack Milne, and Jack's special guest is Ken Neudecker of Neudecker Construction. And Jack, why don't you just pick up where you left off?
Well, thank you, Barry. And, my little motto for the show is where every house has a story. And sometimes as we progress through the time in our homes, we actually change the story a little bit. And the house, we want to expand on it. We want to do a finished basement. We may want to do that detached garage. So a home is almost like a living organism that is constantly changing. And now that hopefully we're past our winter and we're moving into our spring and early summer, again, I wanted to bring Ken Neudecker on to help you forecast, as listeners, how you can plan that addition. So, Ken, before we kick back in, once again, how can our listeners reach out to you?
They can call us at Neudecker Construction, 215-443-9200, or www.neudeckerconstruction.com.
Beautiful. Now, let's talk expectations. Everybody thinks that we plan today and it's done tomorrow. And as we all know, we don't live in a perfect world. And just like earlier in the show where you talked about where you hit a footing of a previous garage, people always are very excited about getting the project started. But I knew when I was a contractor, they were also very excited about getting the project done. So what would you suggest to our listeners? I used to say, in a perfect world, we'd be done in 4 weeks, but 6 weeks is probably a good window that you can work with, depending.
When it comes to timing of things, if you're working outside, some things have to do with the weather. If you're working inside, then you're pretty much in a controlled environment and you can forecast things. As long as cabinets come in when they're supposed to, and the granite is there and the tile is there, for doing bathrooms and kitchens in a perfect world. But a lot of times you will have people order things and they'll be late where they didn't come in when they were supposed to. It's nice to have, if you have a good contractor, he should have pretty much all of your stuff picked to start with and basically ordered. So I wouldn't tear out my kitchen unless I knew my new kitchen was going to be there pretty soon. You know what I mean? You don't, because it takes long enough to do a kitchen as it is sometimes. It can take a couple weeks. But if you're without something that you're missing in the shipment, it's nice to have, especially bathrooms too, because you need those bathrooms. It's nice to have the tile picked, the tub, and things like that you're going to need in there. So
with your clients, you'd say, listen, we're going to need 15, we're doing a powder room. We need 15 square feet of tile. Right. So why don't you go to, blank tile store, pick out what you need, and let's get that ordered. Usually the contractor takes them with them. Okay. You would go there with your customer to your suppliers and say, well, this is your choices, or that way you know exactly what you have in stock and what you don't have in stock. You know what they're looking for as far as the time frame. And that's a good point because, things are moving way beyond what I would call the standard Moens and Delta fixtures. People are moving beyond the Depots and the Lowe's, and they're going to specialty houses to find, some of the higher-end fixtures that may not be in stock. Exactly. Well, the stock on most people, most of your people that stock things, they don't stock as much as they used to because of the economy. And sometimes, even the big supply houses that I deal with, it might have 20 or 30 branches. It might not be in this branch, but it might be in a branch in Delaware. Mm-hmm. As far as getting it from there to where you're at and making sure it's in good shape, or like if you're ordering special fixtures, like you said, for bathrooms, there's a lot of high-end stuff out there nowadays with the shower heads and the shower sprays, and that stuff isn't just sitting on the shelf waiting for you. It has to be ordered. Ken, here's something I want to bring up. With let's talk like payment schedules. How do you work with your clients with that? Well, with a payment schedule, I have my own money, my own reliability with my people that I deal with. Mm-hmm. So I don't really ask for a lot of money down because I don't, you're not supposed to have to give 50% down to start a project. I mean, when I was building houses, the banks would give you 5% in the beginning and 5% in the end, and the rest of it was divided up out of 100% into payments. So. Yeah, I think that's a very good point because that's why I wanted to have Ken on, because if you're interested in having a contractor come out and he's asking for 40% down or 50% down, I'd be looking for another contractor. Exactly. Yep. That'll tell you right there that something's wrong. Because, I mean, you're not supposed to be making his mortgage payment.
he's supposed to be making his own. So he should have his own money, and if he's been doing it a good long time like most people have, he should be able to have credit with his suppliers, whether you're dealing with like Grove Supply or any of these suppliers that you deal with, you have credit. So when you order stuff, you don't need their money to order it. Until it gets to the job, it doesn't need to be paid for, is the way I look at it.
And I think, as I did a show a number of months ago, referrals, you want to go with solid referrals and do some background checks. And it's always good to have, a couple quotes, but at least you have something to bounce off. And I think communication with your contractor is critical. Ken, while our joists are open, how about if we do some hi-hats? Well, no problem. Your electrician, he's going to be due here in about 48 hours. So if you want to do hi-hats, now's the time to discuss it. Again, if you want to do a bar sink in that basement renovation, then we need we need a discharge pump. So yes, we can do that for you. But thank God you told me now before we put the drywall up.
It's a lot cheaper that way to do things, as you go. It's nice to know everything in the beginning, but that's not always possible. People sometimes change their mind once they see what it looks like when it's opened up.
Yeah, the visuals are fantastic, and I know we all go to work in the morning, and the contractors are always on site. Ken, you're on site at 7 in the morning, when I need you, and so and then our homeowners get home at 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So the contractors are pretty well left alone to do their thing. So you always want to communicate with your contractor first thing in the morning, and preferably that night, because you've seen these changes now going on. And if there's any changes in regards to your choices as a homeowner or decisions that their contractor is going to bring forth because of today's work, this open communication, I think, is critical for a successful addition or renovation. But Ken, you brought up a good point about seasonal work. I mean, this time of year, people are going to be outside more. So we're going to talk about patios, decks, your solid additions, garages, but
all suites.
Yeah,
pretty big nowadays with everybody's parents aging.
Yeah, I got that situation myself. But what do you consider more inside work? And is that like from October to March? Is that what you consider more interior work?
Yeah, it could be if you could schedule it that way. I mean, normally it has to do with your customer base and when they want their job completed and how much room you have in your schedule. One thing you don't want is a contractor trying to juggle 3 jobs on you. You want them to be there every day, make sure his men are there every day, and then they finish. They don't jump from here to there to the next job. You want them to stay on your job till you're finished, as long as there's not a major holdback that something happened. But normally you want to make sure your contractor's there every day and he does what he's supposed to do. And it makes it easier on everybody, because when you come home at the end of the day, you get to look at everything and you go, wow, look at that. That's unbelievable. And that's what you like to hear as a contractor.
I think one of the best things I enjoyed when I was a contractor is watching the drywall go up. Now, we both know it's the dirtiest part of the job because of the dust and the sanding and things like that. But you really got to see the room. You got to see, how the light comes through the windows or through your skylights and how it bounces off that drywall. And to me, that was always the most exciting part of the job, was to get to that drywall phase.
Yes.
But at the same time, it was, it's also the dustiest part. And my clients used to say, Jack, I love you, but how much more time? I can't live with the dust. And I know you guys, tent things and shroud things and really try to keep that dust down.
Yeah, I mean, if you have professional guys there, they don't have to put 5 gallons of spackle on and sand 4 off. Mm-hmm. They don't like to sand either, so when they put their coats on, there's very little sanding. But you are going to have that in every job. You're going to have to sand something.
Gentlemen, I've got the bad news that time has once again gotten away from us, and we are just about out of time.
Well, I want to thank Ken Neudecker for coming on board today. If you've got those plans, folks, sit down, communicate with your significant other, put things down on paper, reach out to a good general contractor through referrals. Call Ken at 215-443-9200. and let him put your dreams into reality. And remember, projects are that. They start early, they go late, but at the end of the day, you can smile and appreciate the accomplishment. As it is a weekend, I want to say please spend time with friends and family. Next week, we will be visiting the email box, and I'll see you next week on the House Whisperer.
And don't forget, everybody, coming up in June, we are moving our time, and we're really excited about that. So tune in again next week. We're on the same time for right now. Tune in again next week for another edition of the House Whisperer Show with professional home inspector Jack Milne. And to listen to previous programs, or if you have any questions, visit thehousewhisperershow.com. I'm Barry Reisman on WWDB Talk 860, and thank you for listening.
As the summer months quickly arrive and the temperatures gradually rise, so do the odds of all those filthy and unwanted critters invading your home like rodents, roaches, termites, and flies. Oh my! This summer, if you want to feel safe and secure from a possible creeping, crawling disaster, do yourself a favor and call the exterminating experts at Pest Blaster for all your pest control needs, including tests for radon and mold. Please visit pestblaster.com and you'll be sold. 215-295-5555.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so